Okay, let's take a look at problem 9. So here's the code that I gave you, and as you can see it does this. That was a little bit my bad. What I was actually intending was this. Ah, how nice. So now it prints 0 and 1 and 0, 1, 2 and 0, 1, 2, 3. So sorry about that. Part 1, or Part A says modify, well, Part A says just see what it prints. Part B says modify it so that it counts down to 0 on every row instead of counting up to whatever number it is. So here, on the inside loop, we're saying, so I is, sorry, let's go back. So I are the rows. So row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. So here we're saying instead of starting at 0 and going up to I, instead let's do this. Let's start at I. And let's go down to 0. And let's print that and see what happens. Okay. So as you can see, it is starting at 0 and going down forever. And that's because I had a typo here. I want to say keep looping as long as j is bigger than or equal to 0. There we go. Not less than or equal to 0. Alright, there, we have it. So 0, so we're counting down from whatever I is. So for the first loop when I is 0, we're counting down from 0, then down from 1, then down from 2, and so on. Alright, so the last part of the question said add another loop so that after it gets to 0, it buffers out the rest of each of these lines with more zeros. So let's do this. For I'll just go ahead and use j again. So I got to loop some number of times. I don't know how many times. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be printing 0 with a space. Alright, so the question is, well, so now what it's going to do is it's going to count down to 0, then it's going to get to 0, and then the question is, how many more things do we need to put here? And that's how many times this needs to loop, because it's what comes directly after my first for loop. So, because I am going all the way to 0, it seems like the first time through the loop, when I is 0, think about that, first time through the loop when I is 0, I want to loop 4 times. And then when I is 1, next time, I'm going to add 3 zeros. And when I is 2, I want to add 2 zeros. So, I think I want to go from, let's see, I said when I was 0, I want 4 zeros, right? And that's 1 less than 5. And when I is 2, I want 3 zeros. And that's 2 less than 5. So it seems like I want to loop 5 minus 1 minus the row number. 5 minus 1 minus I. So as long as j is less than 5 minus the row number, I want to keep looping. Or I could say less than or equal to 5 minus 1 minus the row number. Okay, let's see if, oh, except it's not called row, sorry, it's called I. Alright, here we go. Let's see if I've thought about this correctly. I have not. See how it added an extra line of zeros here? This is called an off by 1 error. It means that my thinking was off by 1. This happens all the time. So let's see. I'm doing too many right now. So I want to do fewer. So that means that j has to be smaller than something less than this. In fact, 1 less than this. So I suppose I could do this. And now you see it makes sense. Some other people did this a different way. They said, let's start at I plus 1, and let's have j be less than 5. And I think actually that probably makes more sense. Because here well, here, let's run it. So the first time through the loop when I is 0, this is going to loop 1 time. And so then I want to start my next loop with all the zeros at 1 more than that. So starting at 1 and going as long as I'm smaller than 5. So that's going to get me my 4 zeros. And then when I is 1, it's going to start me at j equals 2. And as long as j is less than 5, that's going to get me my 3 zeros, and so on. So that's part C.